Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
The biggest accomplishment in foreign policy was marked by the death of the leader of al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. He was their main leader during the terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers that triggered over a decade-long manhunt. After claiming responsibility for the attack on the Twin Towers, the U.S. was determined to capture and kill him. Fear was a huge threat in the U.S. and the driving force for the vigorous manhunt. If he had the potential to perform another attack like 9/11, that would present a huge threat on the well-being of the country.
The message is that America will never dream of living in peace unless we live it in Palestine. It is unfair that you enjoy a safe life while our brothers in Gaza suffer greatly. Therefore, with God's will, our attacks on you will continue as long as you continue to support Israel.
There is a fear of the unknown capabilities of his forces. Many asked, "Who is this man?" Oftentimes, people did not even know his face. He became a name with a terrifying reputation. The CIA began to take a major role in not only foreign policy but domestic affairs as well. This meant that the United States had to work with and against the Pakistani government in order to accomplish their mission. The United States' relationship with Pakistan was essential in order to locate bin Laden. His location was a huge challenge to the United States CIA, for bin Laden was very aware of the United States' abilities. The United States quickly allied with the anti-Taliban forces and the Pakistani's Inter-Services Intelligence, ISI. The specific strategies and the technologies that went into locating bin Laden is mostly unknown to the public. There were many key events leading up to his death. The United States' main strategy was to identify Osama bin Laden's courier. In 2007, the officials found his identity and within the following 2 years found the location in Pakistan where their family lived. Starting in 2010, the CIA informed Obama of the high possibilities of bin Laden living in the Abbottabad compound, the same compound of his courier.
The house seemed too big for the neighborhood. There was no telephone connection. The people there burned their trash. There was a wall 12 feet high and a walled-in balcony. Who lived up there?
Over the next 8 months, Obama had 5 National Security Council meetings to discuss the operations. These meetings were, of course, unknown to the public due to security and in an attempt to ensure a higher chance of success. To this day, it is still unclear how the United States intelligence was able to find and capture bin Laden. Here's the man who killed Osama bin Laden.
You stepped into the room and saw the man lying on the floor. What did you do?
Myself and the next assaulter in, we both engaged him several more times and then rolled off and then continued clearing the room.
When you say you engaged him, what do you mean?
Fired.
You shot him?
Yeah.
And what is still unknown to the public is the 10 years of intelligence development leading up to his death. Many people did not even know how he died and were more thrilled that he was dead than what actually happened to him, although this might not have been the case if the mission was not a success. After the Cold War, the CIA began to play a less significant role in government. Therefore, Cold War budgets began to fall short during the 1990s with the fall of the Soviet Union encouraging a peace dividend. The CIA always is in a constant battle between protecting the country and maintaining peaceful relations with other countries. Although the killing of bin Laden raises an important question. How much do the people really know about their government and how they accomplish their missions, both involving and not involving the intelligence agency?
The bin Laden case is not the only scenario where the public was nearly blind to information that had a direct effect on the people. Throughout the course of the United States history, there has always been controversy on how truly transparent the government is. Ever since the Cold War, citizens have questioned how much they truly know about what is going on with the government. In an attempt to assure citizens hard-earned transparency rights, an effort began in 1955 to pass the Freedom of Information Act, or what is known as the FOIA. It began during Nixon's presidency due to the widely controversial Watergate scandal. There were suspicions that Nixon was involved, but then stated that he had nothing to do with the scandal, and was then re-elected for a second term. Shortly after, it came to light that Nixon was not being truthful. Then, he and his aides created a plan for the CIA to impede on the FBI's investigation of the crime. He later resigned after there was undeniable evidence that the president was significantly involved.
I have never been a quitter. To leave office before my term is completed is abhorrent to every instinct in my body. But as president, I must put the interests of America first. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Naturally, this made citizens uneasy, which is why it is essential for the FOIA to be passed. These events led to Nixon's resignation from office. The act was rejected by many presidents and not fully passed until 1974, after the Watergate scandal, which is what forced the government to comply and strengthen the act to ensure transparency. This is not the only case where presidents have lost the trust of the people and made them question the secrecy involved in the government. As Nixon's vice president after his resignation, Ford was sworn into office. The pardon became the most controversial aspect of the entire event. There were several allegations that stated that Ford made a deal with Nixon before his resignation, as heard in the recording.
Anytime you want me to do anything, under any circumstances, you give me a call, Mr. See, I had to do what I did. It was the most painful thing I've ever done.
Ford was also pushed by his chief of staff, Donald Rumsfeld, to veto the FOIA amendment because he thought it was unconstitutional and that the nation's secrets were at risk. Obviously, the House and Senate were appalled and immediately overrode his veto. This again shows the need some presidents have to maintain privacy, but in reality is often used as a cover-up and limits citizens' constitutional rights. President Reagan passed Executive Order 12356, allowing the president to withhold information easier because of national security. He said, "Sensitive information, when disclosure, could harm the security of all our citizens." Clinton was impeached after being accused of lying under oath. Clinton stated that he did not have an affair with Monica Lewinsky, but then went back on his statement after being put on trial again.
I did have a relationship with Ms. Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong. It constituted a critical lapse in judgment and a personal failure on my part, for which I am solely and completely responsible.
He was not voted to be taken out of office, but did lose the respect of the public. This event speaks to the general mistrust that the people had in the government. This shady event speaks to the lack of transparency in the federal government and throughout presidencies. During his presidency, although he did make steps to increase government transparency since the Cold War, he released many classified documents from the Cold War era to the public for historical purpose. He did so by Executive Order 12958, where the Venona decrypted Soviet cable traffic and other things, and pledged to declassify up to 60 million pages of classified records by April 2000. George W. Bush, after 9/11, created more constrictions with the information available to the public. He signed Executive Order 13233, which limited the public to access presidential records and government records from foreign governments, which led to FOIA getting stricter, also limiting access of governmental records from foreign governments. The current President Obama stated that he strove for a presidency of complete transparency and to expose as much information as possible to citizens. Sadly, he has fallen short of this goal, and secrecy is at an all-time high. Agencies have been slow to enforce changes and in some cases outright ignored. In 2012, in a test of the Obama administration's FOI practices, 19 out of 20 agencies did not respond in time to an FOIA request sent by Bloomberg News as they were required to by law. This is the latest reminder that citizens have to continue to demand transparency and hold governments accountable when they do not do as promised.
Today, there is still progress to be made. While many actions have been made to make the government more transparent in displaying U.S. intelligence information, there is still many classified aspects. The public is denied very basic aspects of the U.S. intelligence, for example, the size of the intelligence budget. It is to be concluded that the secrecy is increasing. One main reason for such security is due to the fall of the Soviet Union. The U.S. intelligence was once challenged by communism, a huge threat to our country and many other countries throughout the world. The U.S. was constantly on high alert and military readiness in hope for global domination. During this time, high security was necessary in order to achieve the U.S.'s goals, but today there is no threat to our nation even comparable. Drug traffickers and terrorists are only minor compared to the Cold War due to the lack of industrial infrastructure. Because of the current state of the U.S. government, secrecy should be decreased accordingly. The oversight process has been very poor by Congress and has left the process almost solely on intelligence community itself. It regularly works not within U.S. laws, and hundreds of employees break several laws every day. It was said that several hundred times a day, easily 100,000 times a year, Directorate of Operation officers engage in highly illegal activities.